also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right? Or whether it's the end goal of ceasing the means of production. Where we do not
communists!
I don't believe that the role of the mayor is to police speech in the manner especially of that of Donald Trump, who has put one New Yorker in jail who's just returned to his family, Mahmoud Khalil, for that very supposed crime of speech.
Democrats right now are out for blood. They want to take out their party leaders, and you saw that with Andrew Cuomo going, adios amigos, goodbye, see you later in New York this past Tuesday.
Ducey asked Caroline Leavitt about Mamdani, this new communist out of New York, who is emerging to capture the eye of a lot of other communists throughout our country. And Ducey asked a specific question about this fella called Andy Ogles, who we've talked about before, who made an interesting observation about who he calls Little Muhammad, Mamdani. He said, you know, he should be denaturalized. And I know a lot of people's initial instinct is denaturalize a citizen? Why? Because of his political opinions? Actually, no. No one's talking about his free speech. I mean, yes, they are. They're talking about him being anti-Semitic and socialist and communist and all those things. But the question, of course, is did he lie? Was he fraudulent in his application for naturalization to become a U.S. citizen like 6 years ago? And what we saw originally in the letter that we'll get asked about, and we got some follow-up questions on this, is about this phrase called Globalize the Intifada, where he has an opportunity to condemn it, but doesn't condemn it. He's asked about it. Does he want to globalize the Intifada in America? It's a curious question. Writing rap songs about it, and may have not disclosed any of that stuff on his form. And the form, of course, says, and when you're going through the naturalization process, you should be disclosing your connections with groups like Hamas or other groups who want to, globalize the Intifada. So that came out. Now, that's causing a lot of ruckus. Andy Ogles has been capturing a lot of attention on this and saying, time to naturalize him, right? There's a process for this. Just like any other contract, if you are fraudulent in your representations and you have been discovered to be fraudulent, the side that is not fraudulent can make the argument that you have now breached that contract, right? And claim damages, which in this case would be, you're not a citizen anymore. We have a denaturalization process. And so Ducey asked Caroline about this. Is this a real possibility? Andy Ogles, of course, sent that letter to Pam Bondi to see if Pam is going to open up an inquiry into this fella. Here is how this exchange went.
Congressman Andy Ogles, he wants the Attorney General Bondi to explore denaturalization proceedings because he thinks Mamdani could have misrepresented or concealed material support for terrorism based on rap lyrics he wrote in 2017. Does President Trump think this is a worthwhile use of the Attorney General's time?
Well, I'll let the president speak to that. I have not seen those claims, but surely if they are true, it's something that should be investigated.
And could President Trump see himself, you said you just talked to him about this, could he see himself working with a mayor, Mamdani, somebody who on Meet the Press this weekend was given 3 chances to condemn the phrase globalize the Intifada, but he couldn't?
Yeah, look, the president is always willing to work with everyone. He's working with Democrats across the country, Democrat governors, and he said he'll work with people on the far left. He works with Republicans. He works with people in the middle. He wants to do what's right for America, but surely someone who holds these values and is quite literally a communist and condemns every value that makes this country great. Common sense, law and order, low taxes, working hard, and earning your keep in this country. He's against all of that, and I think the president would find it difficult to work with someone like that. If he is elected, I'm sure you'll hear more from the president on that, but we'll have to see. Hopefully the voters of New York City choose wisely.
She's right. He is a communist. He keeps calling himself a democratic socialist or whatever that is, which is just a euphemism for communist. They like to change labels and say that they're things that they're not. We're like, dude, we all know what you are. You're not a Democrat socialist, okay? Put whatever you want on, chop off something, whatever, add that, whatever. We know. You're a communist. All right, don't try to fool us. So we have seen it. Now there's reaction to this that is percolating out there, and this was a great clip captured by our friend Mays on X. He said this, look, this is not terrible AI. Kind of looks like it's one of those Zoom or Google Meet backgrounds that, looks good. Wow, you're in space? This is so cool. It's a real message from the current front runner called Mamdani. He actually said this, right? This is all open now. Says the end goal of seizing the means of production, which is straight out of Karl Marx, the Communist Manifesto. And that's what they are doing. And he's got a lot of support there in New York. This is the new Democratic Party. Here's what this clip sounded like.
What the purpose is about this entire project, it's not simply to raise class consciousness, but to win socialism. And obviously raising class consciousness is a critical part of that. But making sure that we have candidates that both understand that and are willing to put that forward at every which moment that they have, at every which opportunity that they're given. We have to continue to elect more socialists. And we have to ensure that we are unapologetic authentic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it is the end goal of seizing the means of production. Where we do not...
Communists! Our end goal of seizing the means of production? It's straight out of the Communist Manifesto. It's in there. Now, we also have other Congress people who are commenting on this, right? Here's this dude now eating with his hands in a disgusting fashion, like a Chipotle bowl or something like that with your hands. This is America. We eat with silverware. And Congressman Brandon Gill said, civilized people in America don't eat like this. If you refuse to adopt Western customs, go back to the third world and eat with your hands over there. Now, I don't want to hear hamburgers or pizza either. Okay, those are made to be eaten with your hands. You're not supposed to eat a burrito bowl with your hands in America. It's disgusting. Now, here's some more from this dude. He's got many critiques of capitalism.
Do you like capitalism?
No.
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. And I think ultimately the definition for me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King decades ago. He said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country.
Okay, well, what he's talking about is communism, and he's going to quote platitudes, and people on CNN are going to lap that up. Man, I like Dr. Martin Luther King. So wait a minute. I have to like Dr. Martin Luther King. I've been programmed into that. He's a good man, all these things. So I'm already, got that mental model, and this guy's talking about Martin Luther King. So maybe all the good things I know about Martin Luther King, I can ascribe to him. It's kind of what he's doing. And it's a very dishonest thing. It's not, I think, appropriate to Martin Luther King. So that is what he is saying. We've got other comments here. Here was one saying, I don't think we should have billionaires, which means I guess we just take all their capital.
You are a self-described democratic socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And ultimately, what we need more of is equality across our city and across our state and across our country. And I look forward to work with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city that is fairer for all of them.
Yeah, so his idea then is to create and give more power to the very entity that created the inequality, which is bizarre, right? The government is the entity that creates the inequality by creating special carve-outs for certain classes of businesses or business entities or too big to fail institutions or to their crony capitalist companies that they all hire to, solve climate change or whatever it is they're doing. It's all a giant grift. And then they print money, which they send to foreigners and fund overseas wars, inflating our dollars so that the American people actually have no capital and hard assets upon which they can build or save anything, right? If you could save something, then you could pass it down to the next generation. Everybody could live in a state of abundance because the rest of the world is currently using us as an economic zone. If we had a little bit of that, maybe we'd actually have nice buildings in America and not a bunch of Dollar Trees. But anyways, they're trying to figure out what to do with this dude. We've got Washington Free Beacon reporting on Hakeem, and Hakeem was getting asked about this comment from him about Globalize the Intifada. And Hakeem looks a little bit squeamish here, like a little bit nervous, doesn't know how to handle this dude. Almost like this new communist is forcing all the other communists to have a struggle session.
Globalizing the Intifada, by way of example, is not an acceptable phrase, and he's going to have to clarify his position on that as he moves forward.
Do you condemn that phase, globalize the Intifada, which a lot of people hear as a call to violence against Jews?
I've heard from many Jewish New Yorkers who have shared their concerns with me, especially in light of the horrific attacks that we saw in Washington, D.C. and in Boulder, Colorado, about this moment of anti-Semitism in our country and in our city. And I've heard those fears and I've had those conversations, and ultimately they are part and parcel of why in my campaign I've put forward a commitment to increase funding for anti-hate crime programming by 800%. I don't believe that the role of the mayor is to police speech in the manner especially of that of Donald Trump, who has put one New Yorker in jail who's just returned to his family, Mahmoud Khalil, for that very supposed crime of speech. Ultimately, what I think I need to show is the ability to not only talk about something, but to tackle it and to make clear that there's no room for anti-Semitism in this city. We have to root out that bigotry, and ultimately we do that through the actions, and that is the mayor I will be, one that protects Jewish New Yorkers and lives up to that commitment through the work that I do.
But quickly, for the people who care about the language and who feel really concerned by that phrase, why not just condemn it?
My concern is to start to walk down the line of language and making clear what language I believe is permissible or impermissible takes me into a place similar to that of the president who is looking to do those very kinds of things, putting people in jail for writing an op-ed, putting them in jail for protesting. Ultimately, it's not language that I use, it's language I understand there are concerns about. And what I will do is showcase my my vision for the city through my words and my actions.
Wow. Okay, so he will not condemn it at all. Globalize the Intifada apparently is what he stands for. And so we had a couple of clips here. This guy, Jacob Kornblue, was recording some of these. We had Richie Torres, who was on over on CNN. Here's a little bit of that.
I strongly disagree. No one's advocating for imprisonment. I mean, every elected official has an obligation to condemn hatred, whether it's anti-Semitism or Islamophobia. The Second Intifada refers to a wave of terror attacks, suicide bombings, and slashings and stabbings that left more than 1,000 Israelis and Jews dead. And so when one uses the word Intifada, it causes profound pain and trauma to the Jewish community. It is deeply offensive. Every elected official, without exception, should condemn it.
So he won't say anything about it, right? Ted Cruz says, globalize the Intifada is a call to violence, full stop. Words matter. Whether he wants to believe it or not, New Yorkers have got to reject this lunatic, and we'll see if they do or not. But the Democrats are in total support of this dude. We also saw this. This is Western Lensman. So some are in support of him, some are not. We just saw Richie Torres on that. We also saw Max Cohen, he reports over for Punchbowl, said the following: John Fetterman reacts to Mamdani's success in New York City, saying, I describe it as Christmas in July for the GOP, which maybe, but I think the GOP only has Curtis Sliwa. He's wearing that hat still, so he can't win with that hat on. So I think that that's probably ordinarily true, but maybe that means that Mayor Adams is, going to have a little bit more of a show than otherwise thought. But we also have AOC and other Democrats out giving us a rundown on this. So here is several of them. AOC, of course, endorsed this dude. She's also from New York, big fan of communists since she's a communist herself. And here is what she said.
This isn't just about Mr. Mamdani as an individual. This is about the message that the people of New York City are trying to send to our party.
I think my concerns are well known, but obviously there are many in the Jewish community who are worried about his positions.
I'm not a socialist, and I don't believe in socialism.
What's your reaction to what happened in New York this week with Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist, winning the nomination for mayor? Does that concern you at all?
Well, their election is still in process, but congratulations to the nominee for the Democratic Party. My focus politically is strictly winning the House, so that's where my focus is.
All right, yeah, so a lot of people don't really know how to handle it. Hakeem says he should really clarify what that means. He comes out and says, I'm not going to have my speech policed like anybody else doesn't want their speech policed. And we're saying, well, it's not really policing your speech. You're running for office, and we're asking you to explain a position. And do you know how we do that? Words constructed into a sentence, formed consecutively into paragraphs, communicated through vocal cords and a functional brain. So can you explain it, please, Mamdani? No, he doesn't want to talk about it because he wants to globalize the Intifada like all the other communists do. So here is another one from Murphy saying, actually, he's a pretty decent dude. He's saying some good stuff.
There are certain things that he stands for and says that I don't agree with, but I think you have to pay attention to the fact that you had a candidate in New York City that was talking every single day about the cost of living. And he was proposing really big, sometimes radical ideas to take power from folks who have way too much of it, like the big realty companies that are jacking up rents in New York City, and transferring it to regular people. He did have a laser-like focus on cost of living, on shifting power to people who don't have enough of it. And I think if the Democratic Party, writ large, spent as much time or as big a percentage of our communications time talking about the cost of living as Mamdani did in New York, we'd probably win a lot more elections.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they spent a lot of time talking about lopping off genitals and stuff, and about how everybody was a bigot who didn't like their weird, bizarre sexual fetishes that we saw on display over the weekend from their core constituencies. Now, here was another exchange, short clip from Harry Yenton saying the Democrats want blood. They want to go radically to the left. And to be honest, that is good for the Republicans, right? If the Republicans are going to come back and crush in the midterms, nothing more could help them than having the Democrats really running and showing their true colors by nominating full-blown outright communists to run the biggest cities in America.
What should they take away is that the party leaders, Democrats who say they want to replace their party leaders, look at this, 62% nationally say yes compared to just 24% who say no. That lines up with the idea that Democrats view their own members of Congress, their own leaders in Congress, record low approval rating. Democrats right now are out for blood. They want to take out their party leaders. And you saw that with Andrew Cuomo going, adios amigos, goodbye, see you later in New York this past Tuesday.
All right, so they are going to be at each other's throats for the foreseeable future. And Mamdani is going to continue, I guess, to espouse communism. Of course, we'll keep our eye on that one, and more specifically, Pam Bondi and denaturalization efforts. We'll see whether that gets any momentum. Thank you for subscribing subscribing and joining as we continue here.